everyone, in this video we're going to be going over how to make strawberry shortcake to use some of those incredible strawberries that you can get at the farmer's market. It's a very easy recipe, but we're also going to teach you how to make homemade pound cake to have with it so that you can use some of the other dairy products you can get at a farmer's market. So to start out with, we're going to start out with the pound cake, and we are literally doing the traditional pound cake. Pound of sugar, pound of flour, pound of butter, pound of eggs. So to start out with, we're going to go ahead and prep our pan because it's very easy to forget to do this and just pour the batter in. So I always prep it before I start mixing the batter just so that I don't forget in working really quickly. But you coat the entire thing with butter and then add some flour in and then just shake the excess out. Then you are going to weigh a pound of sugar and a pound of cake flour. And you want to use cake flour because that has less gluten in it, and so it's going to be a little less tough. So in order to weigh anything on a scale, you're going to add a container to the scale. If it's a flat one, hit the tare button, and that's going to zero out the weight of that container. Then you're going to add the ingredient until it reaches the desired weight. And you can always change the unit on there to whatever you need it to be, to ounces, to pounds, to grams, to whatever is required. And I always recommend people get a scale for their house. It just makes things a lot easier for any sort of baking. The tare function just makes it super simple to subtract the weight of the container, so you're not weighing that and you're only weighing the ingredients. Then you are going to crack 9 eggs into a pourable container and then sanitize your countertop afterwards. And yes, it is 9 eggs and it's a lot, but the 9 eggs equals out to a pound of eggs. So then you're going to add a pound of butter, and you want this to be pretty soft to begin with, so leaving it out overnight is a good idea, and you want this to be unsalted butter. And you're going to whip it with a paddle for about a minute just to get it kind of working around, and then you're going to add your sugar into the mixer. And then we are going to cream this until it gets light and fluffy, and this is a cooking term called creaming. So if you ever see a recipe that calls for creaming, that's what this is supposed to look like. And it is going to literally lighten in color and get very fluffy. And it does take a while, and you have to take your time with it. You want to scrape the sides down as you go just to make sure that you are continually working all of that sugar in there. And so scrape down 2 or 3 times as you are going and continue to kind of check the texture. You also want to not be able to feel the sugar dissolved. Then you're going to start adding your eggs in. And we are adding in the eggs one at a time, waiting for them to fully incorporate and mix in before you add the next one. And this is forming an emulsion as you go, but if you add them in too quickly, it's going to break and kind of look curdled and weird. So we're adding those in very slowly. As you can see, we're not really changing the texture a whole lot and waiting for that first egg to go completely away before we add the next one. And scrape it down a couple of times while you're adding eggs as well. After this, we're going to add in our flavorings, and these are not part of the pound measurements, but they just take it a little bit above. And only if you are using unsalted butter, you're going to add in a teaspoon of salt. If you use salted butter, then you're going to leave the salt out. And then you want to add at least 2 teaspoons of vanilla. You can add other flavors as well. You can do strawberry, orange, whatever other flavors that you would like to at this stage. Any extract will work. And then after you get that mixed in, you're going to add your flour in 3 additions. And it is going to go very fluffy all over the kitchen, and it's just what happens. And you want to let each addition mix in completely before you add your next one. And because we're using that cake flour, it's not going to get tough like a lot of other flours would. After that, you're going to scrape down one last time just to make sure that all those ingredients get incorporated in. Let it go a little bit more, and then we are going to put it into the pan. And this is not really going to pour very easily. So when you put it into the pan, you're going to kind of dollop it in there. So just put it in spoonfuls, and then kind of rotate the pan back and forth to get out any trapped air in between the scoops. And then you level out the top of the spatula because this is a very thick batter, and so it's not going to spread like a lot of other batters do, like you might be used to from a cake mix. So you're going to bake this at 350 degrees, and we're not using the toothpick test, we're not using the poke test with this, we are literally checking internal temperature, and you want it to get to 200 degrees because that means that if it gets above that, all of the water will have evaporated because it will be above 212 degrees. So 200 means that you got just enough water still left in the cake. So now let it cool down for a while, and now we are going to get into assembling our strawberry shortcake. So here is what you will need. You want a slice of cake for each person, and generally this is served per person. You want some fresh strawberries, a fourth a cup of sugar 2 times. So you want 2 different fourth cups of sugar. You want a cup of whipping cream, and heavy whipping cream, and it's great to get this locally as well. And then vanilla. First thing you're going to do is prep your strawberries. And so first you want to wash those, obviously. And then you're going to cut the top off of them and slice. If you want them in rounds, you're going to have to be very careful not to cut yourself, because it does roll because it's round. So just be very, very careful with that. If you don't mind the shape of the strawberries, like if you're not really looking to get any particular shape, you can put the flat part down after you cut the top off and cut them into slices that way. It's a little safer to do it that way. So if you're a little bit nervous, it's usually better to just put the flat end down and cut that way. So this is entirely depending on what you are looking for your particular instances. If it's just a regular everyday type situation, then just cut them the safe way. And you're just going to continue cutting the strawberries. We've got a pound of strawberries here. Once you've cut them, you're going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar in there, and you are going to mix that up. And this is called macerating the fruit, in case you wanted to know the technical term of it. What's going to happen is that sugar is going to start to pull the water out of strawberries, and it's going to make its own juice. And so you're going to refrigerate that until you're ready to go if you're prepping this ahead of time. If you prep it the day before, then you're going to end up with a little more juice, which ends up being really nice. So now we are going to prep our whipping cream, and homemade whipped cream is so much better. So you're going to put your whipping cream and your sugar and your vanilla into a small mixing bowl. You could also use powdered sugar in this case because it dissolves a little bit easier. And the vanilla just adds a little bit of an extra flavor punch in there that makes it awesome. And I always use vanilla bean paste. And then you are just going to whip that up in a small bowl. I usually try to use, this is my whipped cream bowl because it has high sides and you don't have to chase it around. And it actually works a little bit better to use a hand mixer because it's able to get into all the corners. Once you get done, the whipped cream should be able to hold its shape. And so you want to lift up the beaters and make sure that it's kind of showing trails in there. And you can always scoop down to the bottom and make sure that all of that liquid is worked in. After that, you're going to add your strawberries and whipped cream to your cake in whichever way that you would like to. And this is something that's pretty customizable, so you could even set it up like a little buffet so that everybody can choose the amounts of each thing that they would like. And you want to serve this immediately or keep the parts separate until you are right ready to serve. So this is a great option to use some of those strawberries that you get in the springtime, especially if you go and pick strawberries. It's a great way to involve kids, and the strawberries will actually cut with a table knife if you want to involve them in the preparation process. And kids really love making whipped cream and stuff, so it's a great way to use that up. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this inspires you to go to some farmers markets and get some fresh produce and have fun with it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.